I call the meeting of the Lake Mills City Council meeting for February the 2nd, 2016. Misty, would you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Fritsch?
Here.
Mr. Kirkovich?
Aye.
Mr. Shar?
Aye.
Mr. Foster?
Here.
Mr. Grundon?
Here.
Mr. Knippel?
Here.
And item 3, correction and approval of City Council minutes for the meeting of January 19th, 2016. Do I have a motion to approve or
I have a
correct?
point of order.
Okay, go ahead.
We want to do the
Wanna
flag
do the-
pledge.
I'm sorry. You're absolutely correct.
How is that okay?
Yep. If you please would rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You're welcome.
Okay, now do we have a motion for the approval of city council minutes for January 19th?
I'll make a motion to approve both the work session and the regular minutes for that date.
Yeah, I don't think we had minutes for the work session, did we?
They're not on there.
Well, I read them.
They're there.
Okay.
They were there.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay, and do we have a second?
Sure.
And Misty, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Kirkovich?
Aye.
Mr. Shar?
Aye.
Mr. Foster?
Aye.
Mr. Grundon?
abstain?
Mrs. Fritsch?
Aye.
Motion passed 4-0.
Correspondence, Ed?
One, I'll address it under future agenda items.
Okay. Mike?
The only conversations I had were some that were brought up by the article concerning the water.
Okay, and Blaze?
I did not have any.
Steve?
Same as Mike, couple conversations about lead.
Okay, and
Right. And I was glad to see that there is the staff statement on our website, which I think Steve will address under the city manager report to cover questions on the lead. But I also do want to mention that we had a really nice turnout in the public for the Around the Corner meeting on Monday night. And if you did not get to see it, there is a copy coming, the library has a copy. I don't know if they've processed it yet for checking out, but the library will have a copy. If you want to see it, you might mention it to the people at the library.
very good. I had just a call about sidewalk shoveling and also a question with the lead issue that I'm sure we'll address later on. And being that item 5, questions and public comments, Misty, would you read that, please?
Questions and public comment. The public is encouraged to address the council at this time regarding items on the agenda unless the item is the subject of a public hearing. If your comments pertain to a public hearing, you are asked to hold your comments until the hearing. Public comment may also be made at this time on items that are not on the agenda if you have registered with the city clerk before the meeting has been called to order. The state's open meeting law discourages action by the council on items not listed on the agenda. Please keep your comments limited to 3 minutes and state your name and address when starting your comments and fill out the sign-in sheet provided.
Anybody wish to address the council? Seeing none, we'll close questions and public comment and go to the city manager's report. Steve?
You received the primary letter, but we received a letter that was attached to my report labeled the Community Development Block Grant Letter. And that is a letter from the state saying that we have a $500,000 revolving loan fund that we haven't lent out in several years, and that they would like it back if we're not going to use it. Actually, it's not quite that nice, but I'll put it that way. The other one is there's a resident letter from an Earl Topol, And he's on the intersection of Main Street and East Lake Park Place, on the southeast corner of that intersection. So he's part of the East Lake Park Place project. That'll be coming up this summer. Our code only allows one driveway per residential unit. He has one on Main Street and he wants to keep one on East Lake Park Place. And so that was the request he put in. You guys will have to make that waiver. So when he wants to get that on the next agenda, we can handle that. Then he can have his 2 driveways. Lead in the water. Lake Mills does not have lead in our water source, which is groundwater. Similar, Flint has lead in their source water, which is a river. Our lead issues come from lead water services. So most of the water, well, all of the water in Lake Mills is distributed through pipes that are ductile iron. And then from the ductile iron pipe to the property line is a service line that the city puts in. Most of them are copper, but in the 30s and 40s and even into the 50s, they used lead. Usually when they ran lead to the property line, they ran lead into the house to the meter. And then in the house, they didn't use lead throughout the house. They generally used either galvanized or copper. But they used lead-based solder to solder the joints in the copper until the 80s. So the vast majority of our lead issues are related to water sitting in the copper lines in your house and leaching the lead out of the solder. We annually send a letter to people talking to them about this. We test our water for that. We test the houses for that on a regular basis. As you'll note in Paul's talking points, that's pretty erratic. It really depends on how you test. If you run the water for a couple minutes, it changes the test substantially. When we remove the lead, we put phosphorus in our water to line the line, to put a coating on the inside of the pipes to reduce the leaching from the lead and the copper. That being said, when we replace the lead lines with new copper, they actually have a spike in their lead in the inside of the house because the water's interacting with the copper more. The recommendation from the DNR is and when I got here and they started pressing us, and I think it was in 2005 on lead and copper, and we got our first order to replace lead services, they said we had 37 services. Well, we've already replaced over 50 lead services in the community. So we have no record of where those are. They were done in the 30s and 40s. So it's kind of, when we dig it up, we find them. From that standpoint, you're supposed to give the property owner 45 days notice before you start work on a lead service. And allow them an opportunity to decide whether they want to replace theirs too or not. Generally, when you find the lead services like we do in some type of construction project or in an emergency repair, that's not always a feasible option. So we have had a little bit of trouble in being able to convince the homeowners in the time period we've been allotted to change out. We have met our DNR and EPA requirements for lead service line changeouts, and we will continue to do that. There's no way of knowing how many there are. If people are interested, they should go downstairs and buy their water meter on where the water comes in on the inside of the meter. They should take something and scrape the pipe because lead is real soft, and they'll know right away. And then they can call us and let us know. We can get a better count on what our lead services are. I'm anticipating that we'll see quite a few on South Main Street and Mulberry when we do those projects, so those will be big change outs. Those service lines have been in those homes probably anywhere from 80 to 70 years. As long as they're well coated, they're probably not a substantial issue. But if you're interested, test your water and let us know. Then we can find out and make a determination on turnover of the lead service, if there is a lead service. But you're also going to be recommended to redo your plumbing and your water service. I attended the Askelon Town Board meeting last night, and it was about a conditional use permit for the property on Harvey Road, just north of Mansfield. And they were looking at truck traffic in relationship to a change in use on the property from basically crop farming to intense goat operation. They, because of the right to farm law, don't have much that they can comment on. The only thing that they could look at was the amount of traffic on the road. They had originally proposed going down Harvey Road from B to the property. Their attorney advised them that they couldn't designate a route that went through another municipality. So they changed and are now running it from 89 north on Harvey to the property. They did several other things in relationship to that. They took an irrevocable letter of credit and put in place that they were going to do a study on the road and make a determination of several other items so that they could be fair in their eventual determination of how much damage was done to the roadway. From our perspective, more of the traffic will probably run Main Street south to Harvey Road. But that road is designed to handle truck traffic. Harvey Road was not. So they kept their meeting pretty much tight to the issue. There were several people there who wanted to ask questions about other issues. And as I would have expected, they said that's the state reviews those. We don't have any input into that. The only thing we can review at this point in time is the traffic. So they referred the people to the county and the DNR. The staff has been working on 2 site plans, the Culvers and the Vita Plus. So we'll probably have those done pretty soon. You'll note on our website that the dam and the Elm Street bids are out. I know I get a lot of questions about the dam, so you can point out that the dam bid is out and ready to go. And I sent out an email about sponsoring the dredging project, and Mike responded, said he'd sponsor that, so we'll probably see that on one of the agendas coming up shortly. Are there any questions?
What was the issue on Harvey Road again?
Well, they're locating a goat farm there.
Yeah, okay.
The whole review of the goat farm is basically done through the state under the right to farm law.
Right.
So they'll review the water permit and the manure issue and the animal units and all that. The only issue that the town of Askelon got to review was traffic. And the question is, 9,000 goats, which is being proposed for the site, will generate about 40 to 45,000 pounds of hay per day. Well, actually about 55,000 pounds of hay a day, 45,000 pounds of grain a day, 10,000 pounds of straw a day. They'll ship out about 55 to 60,000 pounds of milk a day, and then they haul off the ash from their manure. So you're probably going to see truck traffic increase in that area from whatever it is now to about 20 to 30 trucks per week.
Okay.
Now, the issue for them is that, you have a couple trucks running up and down that road, mainly in the spring and the fall, and harvest and planting. This is going to be every week, all year long, because they're shipping in all their food and then shipping out their milk.
Okay.
So a fully loaded 80,000 pound truck is equal to 9,600 cars as far as wear on a road.
Oh,
An empty truck equals 1,055
wow.
cars. So when you think about it, you're not going to get a truck loaded with hay up to 80,000 pounds. So when you take the average, you're probably going to be somewhere around 4,000 to 5,000 car average based on the load size and the number of empty loads coming in and out. So you have to figure that you're seeing, truck traffic that would, on those roads, that's going to average somewhere around 8,000 to 9,000 cars of traffic per week. So the amount of damage that will be done to that road by the trucks will definitely ramp up. The debate is the road designed to handle that kind of traffic? They did not know. My anticipation is it is not. If it is not designed to handle that, then I think the ratio goes up 6 times. So if you're looking at the trucks equaling a number of cars, it would probably be somewhere around 25 to 30,000 cars per week.
And that affects us because we're responsible for part of that road.
Well, they opted not to run Harvey Road south. They opted to run Harvey Road north off of 89.
Okay.
The debate is will the trucks then come down Main Street to go to Harvey Road to come north again?
Oh, I see.
So that was the question that was debated. I guess my point is that Main Street's designed to handle truck traffic. That's not an issue. The issue is you put them on Harvey Road would be gone in a year. So then what's the cost of rebuilding Harvey Road?
Okay. Okay. Anything else?
Unless
Questions? Okay, Adam,
I think I would just want to mention again that for anybody who does have an interest in the lead issue, since it was something that was on television, was it television or radio?
it was television.
Television. If you go to the city website, the first item on that is the article about the lead, and if you go to that article, it gives a complete explanation about Lake Mills. The statement on the radio, on the TV station was inaccurate, and they have since corrected it, but of course, once the cat's out of the bag, it's hard to catch it to put it back in. And that's where we are now with a lot of misinformation. So just so people know that we don't have the problem that Flint, Michigan has.
very good point, Diane. Thank you. And Steve, could you get the water testing report published on the website also?
I did that right away.
Okay, good.
It's still the 2014,
Sure.
because 2015 just ended, but we do have the new report in hand. It just hasn't been finalized yet. So
All
as
right.
soon as we get the 2015, we'll get it up there.
Great. So, the citizens should be resting easy. We have good water. Okay, item 7, acceptance of minutes of the Rock Lake Committee for December 1st, 2015, and the Rock Lake Housing Authority of December 10th, 2015. Those go on record as read. For council business, we have miscellaneous licenses. Misty, would you do that for me?
The first miscellaneous license is a secondhand jewelry dealer license for Countryside Jewelry.
And do we have a motion of acceptance?
So moved.
And a second, please.
Second.
Okay, and this is really designed so people can't sell stolen property. Is that correct?
To help protect the consumers, correct?
Okay. So, Misty, you have any discussion? If not, go ahead and call the vote, please.
Mr. Shar?
Aye.
Mr. Foster?
Aye.
Mr. Grundon?
Aye.
Mrs. Fritsch?
Aye.
Mr. Kirkovich?
Aye.
Motion passed 5-0.
And item 2, tavern operator's license. Misty, if you would.
Lori Murray?
Okay, do I have a motion of acceptance
So moved.
and a second?
Second.
Any discussion? If not, please call the vote.
Mr. Foster?
Aye.
Mr. Grundon?
Aye.
Mrs. Fritsch?
Aye.
Mr. Kirkovich?
Aye.
Mr. Shar?
Aye.
Motion passed 5-0.
And we have a presentation of Glenn Zastro for the Rock Lake Committee, or the Joint Rock Lake Committee, I'm sorry. Floor is yours, sir.
Hi, I'm Glenn Zastro. The other member from the city on our committee is Bob Willenek here, and there's a couple of other members, Larry Clark and Stan Someski, so they're helping me, supporting me so that I don't say anything wrong here. I would just go over briefly some of the things we've done in the last year. Going back to your dam, we went to all of the dam presentations in support of the upgrades. A year ago in November, when the city passed the zoning ordinance, our committee worked closely with Pam Laceris and the Plan Commission relating to the shoreline rules and erosion controls. Last year, the township had a new police chief. We met with him and the lake patrol officers to discuss the boat patrol, the enforcement, and boater education. The last several years, this town and the city applied for a Clean Boats, Clean Water program, which has been very successful. Just at Mill Pond and the Sandy Beach, 154 man-hours were put into support this program. And the township and you have applied now for the next year, and that program will continue. We all supported the printing and distribution of Rock Lake brochures that were put at all the boat launches, both township and city. And recently we met with Rob Getz, your Park and Forestry Director, and with Bill Cleason of Lake Mills Wastewater Utility to discuss beach testing for fecal pollution, which can lead to beach closings. We are currently studying ways to better inform the public and schools when there are beach closing, including signs and public information brochures and that type of thing. Currently, we are reviewing the township ordinances on lake issues, including but not limited to hours for skiing, driving on ice, swimming areas, piers, boat lifts, all those kinds of things that are on the township ordinance concerning the lake. We also recently supported the Rock Lake Improvement Association, a grant application to update the lake management plan that's now 10 years old, and tonight we got word that that grant has been approved. So the lake management plan will be updated. That's pretty much the major topics we have talked about at our meetings. Anybody got any questions?
Not a question, Glenn, but to the group, kudos for getting the grant. That's not an easy thing to do, to get the state to give you money, so, for the lake management plan, so, good job.
Sounds like your group's been very busy.
We've been busy. Thank you.
And on behalf of the council, we commend the Joint Rock Lake Committee for fine work you've been doing over the years, and best wishes to all of you. Thank you. Item C, discussion decision on the National Highway System designation for Highway 89 South Main. I guess, Steve, if you'll lead that off.
Don't we have to make a motion?
Oh, this is a motion, I'm sorry. Diane, thank you. Motion 16-2-1-1, Main Street National Highway Systems designation. Misty, if you would, please.
City Council Motion 16-2-1-1, authorizing the city manager to send this motion to the Wisconsin Department of Transportation regarding the removal of the National Highway System designation from the portion of Highway 89 Main Street through Lake Mills. Be it moved by the City Council of the City of Lake Mills, Wisconsin as follows. Section 1, that the council has received a Federal Highway Administration and Wisconsin Department of Transportation recommendation to remove the National Highway System designation from the portion of Highway 89 Main Street from County Highway A, Topol Street, north to County Highway V, Tyranina Park Road. Section 2, that the council considered the data and evidence and evaluated the information and decided to concur with the recommendation of the Federal Highway Administration and Wisconsin Department of Transportation. Section 3, that the council has received notice that the decision needs to be made by February 3, 2016, and the decision impacts the project environmental impact report. Section 4, the city clerk is authorized to send this motion to Wisconsin DOT, indicating the council has decided to concur with the recommendations and agree to the removal of the National Highway System designation for the portion of Highway 89 within the corporate limits. The city council does hereby approve the motion and authorizes the council president to sign the motion.
Do I have a motion of acceptance?
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay,
I have a
Steve.
question. Okay.
Yes.
In section 3, it says that we received the notice that the decision needs to be made by February 3rd, and the decision impacts the project environmental impact report. What happens if we don't do this?
Thank you, Diane.
If you don't approve the motion,
Right.
nothing happens to the environmental impact report.
So,
It stays as is.
so basically, there's no penalty for not doing anything. We don't gain anything, we don't lose anything. It's kind of a mute.
Well, to me, we actually gained something, but we can talk about that too.
Well, let me put it this way, in my opinion. This is a fish story where we went out to catch whales and all we see are minnows. And by that I mean, what is the benefit to the city? The street could possibly be 2 feet narrower,
Max.
max. And you could eliminate the white lines for a bike lane. That's the difference. From the state's perspective, their discussion was, well, it eliminates us having multiple design standards that we have to design to. And this is, when they were looking at certain types of roadways, they were looking at connection points like Highway 19 between the 1812 Beltline and 9094. And when they wrote the legislation to capture those types of things and put them in the NHS system, they captured areas like 89 through Lake Mills, which wasn't the intent. So what the benefit is to them is that they don't have to design to federal standards, they can design to state standards.
That's right.
The conflict here in my mind is that from Fort Atkinson north, they're designing on a rural cross-section. So there are no curb and gutters, there are shoulders, there are ditches, there's no stormwater. It's a totally different, then you hit the south end of the city, you change your design standards. Now the design standards are the state standards, which are 2 feet narrower than the city. That's it. That's the only design change. So I don't, like I was saying, we thought we were getting whales, and really we're just getting minnows. It's not a significant benefit. There's no, from our standpoint, it doesn't look like we would lose any financial issues.
And that's not final either, right? I mean, we don't exactly know.
We don't know,
Say we'll
but
accept it and have all
the
kinds of
state
things.
is pretty confident on all their levels that at the state level, we will not lose funding.
Right, but those emails aren't,
Nope.
nobody's liable
It's
to,
not
the
carved in
state
gold.
doesn't have to hold up to this one guy's email.
Well,
From a legitimate standpoint, they don't have to say.
that's like me guaranteeing that something's going to stay in place in the city forever. As councils change,
Right,
things change, and that happens nationally, and that happens at the state level. So you're not going to, no bureaucrat can sit down and say that this is the way it's going to be forever. Based on what's in place now, we would not lose funding.
I mean, I just want to say, 2 years ago, if they'd have come up with this and said, hey, let's design it to this standard, that'd have been great. I look at this right now and go, I can say no, and 2 years from now, when the project's done, ask them, hey, do you want to do that? Then we can talk about it, We can do it 2 years from now if we want. 'Cause
Or a
obviously they're
future
not gonna-
council can do it.
Correct. But to change it now seems,
Yeah, and, I was initially not in favor of, widening the streets or the bike lanes, but it's inevitable. We're going to get them one way or another. Even if the street is 2 feet narrower, we're still going to get bike lanes one way or another. Either the federal transportation, whatever they are, are going to put them in, or we're eventually going to be putting them in because of popular demand.
And
I don't know that the issue of bike lanes is significant in this situation, and the 2 feet isn't significant either. It's not gonna, our goals were to snow storage and save trees.
Right.
2 feet doesn't do either of those.
No, exactly.
And it would cost us money because it would require redesign.
Design, yeah.
And if we want to change those items, and I have no interest in increasing the cost of South Main Street.
Exactly.
Well, I need to, just because you drop the National Highway System designation doesn't mean you change the design.
But it gives you that option.
It gives you the option. You have to pass a resolution saying you want to change the design. Now, there are 2 issues that occur then. First of all, it does cost some extra dollars. Not significant, but does cost some extra dollars. The redesign could push us into 2019 because we're already at the breaking point of dropping from 18 to 19.
And we already have Mulberry set up for 19.
Right, so we would be causing issues
You bet.
from a construction standpoint. So dropping the NHS designation is, in my opinion,
Not a big deal.
is not a big deal. It doesn't affect us one way or the other. Changing the design would probably do that without gaining any significant benefit. So that was kind of my position. I mean, if I were looking at it, I would say, okay, I don't have any problem if the state feels that they need us to give up the NHS. I'm willing to do that. They're saying that from their
But
standpoint.
if you look in the future, 30 years from now, if it's a state highway, what if the state doesn't have any money?
That's my
Yeah.
concern. I think
Well-
we're better off leaving it the way it is because look at just in the last 8 years, everything that's disappeared from money that used to come to cities from the state. I mean, it's time after time with budget. We find, oh, well, now we have to pay this because the state decided they don't want to tax people. And then we have another thing and another thing, and pretty soon it's like Rudy said, And I think we should vote this down and just leave well enough alone, and at some future time, if another council feels there's a value to it, they can change that, can't they?
Yes.
Okay, so there you go.
I should note, though, that both systems are funded by the feds.
No, okay.
So it's not like the state's gonna, Probably the most significant issue in the state funding process is that when you have a federal priority, you move to the top of the list. When you don't have the federal priority, you kind of drop in with everybody else. So that it's probably a lot longer between design standards. That being said, I mean, look at where we've been now. Was 65 years between reconstructions. I don't anticipate that we'll see any North Main Street reconstruction in quite a while. That concrete's holding up really well. It's designed well. It's been built well. My only fear is that we didn't replace the water and sewer, and they're going to collapse. But on South Main Street, we're doing water, sewer, storm, pavement, sidewalks. It'll be a top-notch road for a long time.
So if we go with the plan that we have in place now, we save the extra costs of redesign. We don't gain anything. So there's no advantage. So what would be the vote? And what would be a yes vote and a no vote?
At this time, a yes vote would be that you drop the NHS designation. If you vote no, then you keep the NHS designation.
Okay.
But just for clarification, if we dropped it, that doesn't mean you have to redesign, and it doesn't mean that the street is 2 feet narrower.
Right.
Because we could still stay exactly with the design
It-
and keep it the 2 feet wider, correct?
Right. And the funding on this project would stay the same. Can't guarantee any other projects, but nobody can, I don't think. But in this situation, the only way we would drop the 2 feet and run the risk is if we then passed a resolution that we sent to Vicky Romanesco. This resolution goes to Tom Kropowski at Planning. And then we would have to flip over and pass a resolution that went to Vicky that said we want to drop the bike lanes. And then at that point, then we would be in the redesign.
But by defeating this, we can keep moving forward with no interruption, correct, on the?
Yeah, there's absolutely, staying with the NHS designation has absolutely no change on where we've been headed. I don't know that passing it does either, but it does allow more options. Not good options, but options.
Any other discussion?
I think I said my piece.
Call the vote, please.
Mr. Grundon?
Nay.
Mrs. Fritsch?
No.
Mr. Kirkovich?
Nope.
Mr. Shar?
No.
Mr. Foster?
No.
Motion failed.
Very good. Uh-oh.
Computer died?
No, you need one?
Okay. That's a small writing on here. Okay, we're on item D, discussion decision on bid award for project L03-15A, the overhead and underground equipment installation for 2016 and 2017. And this is motion 16-2-1-2. Misty, if you would, please.
City Council Motion 16-2-1-2, authorizing the city manager to accept the bid for the overhead and underground line extension project. Whereas the City Council of the City of Lake Mills, pursuant to the authority conferred by the statutes of the state of Wisconsin, has established certain standards and procedures for the maintenance of the public facilities of the City of Lake Mills. And whereas the City of Lake Mills established policies for maintaining facilities and equipment annually. And whereas the City of Lake Mills has prepared plans and bid documents for advertisement, and the bids have been advertised according to state statute and local ordinances. And whereas the city manager, consulting engineer, and city staff have made recommendations concerning approval of said project and bid. And whereas the city council has reviewed the documents and information to determine if they are generally satisfactory and in the best interest of the city. Be it therefore moved the second day of February 2016 by the City Council of the City of Lake Mills, Wisconsin as follows. Section 1. That the City Council authorizes the city manager to execute an agreement with the lowest responsible contractor for a bid amount as follows. 1. Bidder Piper Line, $592,491.48. Section 2. The total bid amount shall not exceed $592,491.48 for said labor for an overhead and underground line extension project primarily along South Main Street is hereby approved. The city council does hereby authorize the council president to sign the motion.
And do we have a motion of acceptance?
So moved.
And a second, please?
A second.
Steve, anything to add on this?
Well, the map is kind of the key to this. It shows that we're doing a lot of work on South Main Street and Madison, and then we have a couple small spots out towards Brookstone and one on the north side. Most of it is undergrounding.
Okay,
Some of it, I think the Madison Street project is mainly overhead. But if you look at it, it basically completes all the circuit loops within our area and then it gives us the backbone to finish that line along the west side of the lake. So it's getting us there. This is spread over 2 years and it's coming out of the operations fund.
okay.
And Betsy has reviewed it, and she is confident that she has the money.
Actually,
right.
Isn't this
Payroll
below,
deduction.
this is below
No.
budgeted, right?
Pardon?
This is less than budgeted, right?
Yes, it's about $200,000 less than budgeted.
Way to go,
It was a
Betsy.
very, very good bid. They're actually trying to figure out how to stretch it for a couple more years, but I'm sure Vicky will put a squash on that.
Well, I think it's definitely time that we finish this up, because it's important that we have a good electrical service, and whenever you have a circular system, it's a more dependable system. And
Absolutely, very good, good point.
and
And
prices
and
don't
I
get
think-
cheaper either. If we wait another year, it's just going to go up.
No, I was surprised
and-
with the pricing.
Reliability is a very important economic issue.
Okay, so we have an acceptance and a second. Do we?
You did that.
Any other discussions? Misty, if you would?
Mrs. Fritsch?
Aye.
Mr. Kirkovich?
Aye.
Mr. Shar?
Aye.
Mr. Foster?
Aye.
Mr. Grundon?
Aye.
Motion passed 5-0.
Item 9, recommendations for future agendas.
I have one. As I said, I was approached by it, and I agree with it. I would like to have on the future agenda item, Mr. President, discussion. I don't think there's any decision needed, but a discussion about displaying our flags for a little longer. They put them up for like Flag Day, and then they get taken right down the next day, and I think we need to be more patriotic in Lake Mills by showing our American flag. And the cost up and down is the same, it's just that we would have a shortened life to the flags, but I think it's well worth it, so I'd like
Okay.
us to have a council
See if-
discussion on that.
If you put that down, please. Anything else?
Yeah, do we have a date for the meeting that was generated from the last meeting about the trees on South Main?
Yeah, we have two of them. The staff is meeting with a small group on the 8th, and then on the 22nd, we're having an open forum that'll be advertised in the newspaper here in the council chambers
In the evening?
in the evening,
It's 7 o'clock?
7 o'clock.
And can you put that on the city homepage and also on the CVT
Yeah.
TV?
They're advertising it in the newspaper,
Okay, great.
so we'll just kind of latch onto that.
Okay. Anything else?
We have the dredging,
Oh, the dredging, yeah.
which Mike asked for, we'll bring that. I'll try and have something ready for that. And then we have the executive session for economic development
When?
at the next meeting.
Okay. Anything else? Blake, you got anything?
I do not, no.
Okay. Well, we'll call this meeting adjourned.